Treant Monk mentioned in his review of the 2024 Player's Handbook that healing potions contain text identifying their use as a bonus action. He commented, rightly, that this doesn't answer the question of whether or not potions in general will take a bonus action or an action to use, and this is actually great news. Not just for potions, but for Dungeons & Dragons in general. The fact that potions have required an action to use in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons has been a problem since the books came out in 2014. And that's pretty much because inside of the action economy of a combat situation, an action is king. It is a huge resource that every player is looking to hoard towards something that's going to be impactful to their game. And giving up your action to suck down a potion in order to get some kind of a buff, but not being able to impact anything on the field of play just doesn't feel as exciting, interesting, or impactful as it might be to cast a spell upon your enemies, or use some of your cool features, or beat something up with a darn stick, for crying out loud. The fun part of D&D doesn't usually come from having that quaffing influence of throwing a buff on yourself in the midst of combat. And yet, setting things up for use beforehand has always been a little bit of a challenge too, because there are plenty of potions with particularly short durations. And so we get people hoarding this resource of these potions because they're not sure whether or not they're going to have time to use it beforehand. They don't want to waste the potion, and so they end up not using it at all. And at the end of the campaign, you could probably open up an alchemy shop with most groups' leftover potions. And so, of course, it's been implemented at a lot of tables, the common house rule of using potions as a bonus action. This fixes a lot of the problems that were previously mentioned, making potions significantly more powerful in the process, but does come with the slight drawback of some potions which were worth spending an action in order to be able to quaff, becoming outsized in their strength. It's pretty rare, and honestly, the house rule has not caused a lot of trouble at many tables, but it is something that exists in there. And so obviously we're excited to see potions being able to be used as a bonus action as part of the 2024 release of the Player's Handbook, because we've all been thinking that it made sense to make healing potions something that could just be quickly sucked down in the middle of combat without it taking you out of the action. But in the 2024 Player's Handbook, as Treant Monk pointed out, we haven't got guidance on whether or not all potions are going to be bonus actions, or if it's just going to be healing potions, the only potions that are included in that book. And the reason that that is exciting is because of a standard principle in Dungeons & Dragons and in games like Magic the Gathering, where generic is beaten by specific. Essentially, if you introduce a rule into the game that says specifically this works this way, then that always works that way, unless something is even more specifically saying that this specific thing works in a different way. By making all potions take an action, they didn't have to include the text on what kind of action was required in any of the potion descriptions, but they also were restricted to some degree from making potions work as a bonus action in other situations when perhaps they should have. Maybe that potion of giant strength should take an action to be able to quaff, but a potion of healing should take a bonus action. By not including it as a general rule, but instead leaving it to the specific item to specify the kind of action type, we leave open a lot of opportunity for design to choose each item's action economy instead of blanketing the action economy at the systemic level. This is something that the rewrite of 5th edition seems to be doing across the board, as the action types that have been listed and suggested as being opportunities for people to take, for instance, the search action, the magic action, the study action, they're all being listed as actions, but none of them are specifying that they cost an action to perform, except where they are specifically being used for specific tasks. This is interesting because the magic action includes casting a spell, but some spells require actions and others require bonus actions, and yet there's still going to be the magic action to do so. Activating an item is likewise a magic action, and this means that some of them will be actions to activate and others will be bonus actions. This allows us much more specificity in setting the action type at the individual level, which allows us to control to some degree the power level of the items that we're giving out. I think this is a huge and useful change to the system by not specifying what large, broad categories are going to take in terms of actions, but instead leaving it up to each individual item or action or spell or feat to imply itself how long it's going to take to perform, so that we have more nuanced control over the action economy at our table depending upon the power level of the item that we want to create. Do you think this is intentional or just an oversight, and we'll learn in the Dungeon Master's Guide that all potions require a bonus action? Likewise, let me know in the comments down below if there's another rule or revelation about D&D 2024 that you would like to have dived deeper into and the effects that it's going to have on your game. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. Until next time, happy adventuring.